Hey, welcome to Men On. This is our companion program since Scandal is on hiatus. We are doing Men On, lots of different topics. So I'm Tony Scott. That's Troy Johnson. That's Mark Clark. And a lot of stuff happened this week. Maya Angelou passed away. She was 86 years old.
Yeah.
And I didn't know she was sick.
I think she'd just been kind of under the weather, but you're right. I think I had this conversation with some people, and they were like, a woman who's 86 years old obviously lived a long, fruitful life, so you can't really argue about that. But I think society today, when you hear about someone passing away or someone who hasn't been in the news eye as much as they used to be, and then suddenly they're gone, people are still shocked by it.
Sure.
And this was one of those cases.
So I was reading this article this morning and heard some audio where a 911 dispatcher got suspended because during the call, the 911 call for Dr. Angelou, that in the background somebody was making comments about Oprah and racism and things like that. Now I listened to it and I couldn't make heads or tails out of it. We've got the audio on talking360.com if you want to check it out. But I was like, I can't call it, man. Have you guys heard it?
No.
I was
I haven't heard that.
Yeah, and apparently, like I said, the 911 dispatcher got suspended over what happened, but I can't make heads or tails out of it at all. And I thought maybe you guys had heard it and stuff like that. So there's a lot of people, and I knew how awesome Dr. Angelou was, but because I've never really been part of that whole spoken word thing, although I can appreciate some of the things she has said and written. But she apparently touched more people than I ever realized.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think, and we're talking about a woman who was, there's a word that Mark uses a lot, wordsmith, which is, more of a hip hop term. But I was looking at it. If you have not looked at, and if you are not a huge Maya Angelou fan, but you want to get plugged in, the best thing for you to watch is Oprah Winfrey's master class with Maya Angelou, because it's like she's talking directly to you about all of her life experiences, all the things that she accomplished, all of her dreams, and it's so touching. It is her facial expressions when you watch it. Just you see someone who deeply cares about everybody on this planet. It's just amazing. It's an hour. You can handle that.
Yeah.
But I think she just all of the triumphs in her life are equally matched with all of the struggles that she had to go through. And she overcame them, and she embraces all of them. The woman was, a prostitute at one time in her life. She had to do whatever she could to take care of her child. If it wasn't for her education and the fact that she got one, this story could have gone a completely different direction. So, all of it, and she embraces all of that stuff.
Now she has a son, right? Correct? Is that right?
She did have a son, yeah.
So a son. Because I didn't know she had a child. I didn't know that much about her. I knew how strong her words were, but as a personal life, I knew she was a dancer, and I knew she had done some prostituting early in her life because she had to, or she felt like she had to. But I never knew she had a child, and she has a son. Now, is he still alive?
That's a good question, Tony.
Yeah, good question. I guess she was pretty private about her private life, which is good.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. I think like Troy said, she is a national treasure, and that's why, the people in her generation who are still alive and still articulate, who lived through civil rights and lived through these different eras, man, I don't think we, as an African-American community, really, really understand and appreciate and value I mean, from Quincy Jones to Dick Gregory to Bill Cosby to Maya Angelou, they firsthand had relationships with the Kennedys and with Martin Luther King, with Malcolm X, and with all these stories. Mm-hmm. And I think we really don't understand. We really don't appreciate that generation, and they really were there as everything developed, and she was, imagine the influence she's had on Oprah. In fact, Oprah, who always acknowledges that she's her mentor and the person she goes to for counsel. I just think she shaped Maya Angelou indirectly, probably shaped more things, like you said, Tony, than we even are aware of.
Right.
So it's bigger than just her poetry. And then you think about poetry, she is the biggest poet of our times, hands down. I mean, from president to president to her poems for special occasions or tragedies in our country's history. You can't really think of anyone else who's as prominent as a poet as she is. But like you said, Tony, some people aren't really into spoken word, into poetry, but it's bigger than poetry.
Yeah. Well, you're right. You're right about that. And
the poetry tip, Mark, since you just mentioned that, there are two things. One, in the master class, she mentions the fact that the United Nations asked her to write a poem about the world. Can you imagine like the pressure that had to be? Hey, we need you to do this poem for the world for us. Can you hook that up?
I need that by Tuesday.
By Tuesday. And the State Department asked her to write a poem for Nelson Mandela before he died. And I think the story was, I don't know if it was a year before he died, but it was definitely some time before he passed away. And she obviously had to keep it a secret, never said anything about it, but the poem was released in like 14 languages within 24 hours after his death. So,
wow. Now, I didn't know the woman spoke 6 languages.
Yeah.
Wow.
I did not know that about her. I read that this week about her, that she actually was spoken 6 different languages. So now no matter what language you say, it all comes out the same. Arsenio got canceled this week, man. Doesn't matter what language, adios, whatever. But it only lasted a year, the comeback. And I got to say, I'm not surprised. There was a lot more competition this time than there was last time he was on. But, the problem I had with the show was that it was the same exact show that it was in the 90s.
Yes.
And I think that was like a major problem, that it never they didn't do anything really different at all, except, well, I can't think of anything they did different. Did they do anything?
And here's another problem: Arsenio ain't funny.
Well, but see that's relative to who's watching. Some people think he's hilarious.
You know who it's relative to?
What?
CBS. They canceled that man.
Well, let me. I posted this in a long. I won't be that long on my comment, but I think this is good and bad. I think number one, the bad, and I commend Arsenio. Love him or hate him, Arsenio brought great guests to the show.
He did.
He had, because of his, unlike all the other shows, because Arsenio was basically the first black host in our times that had a show that was successful. The stories were amazing, from the Ice Cube who meets, John Singleton, who was working at the show. He met him there, and then that became their relationship. All these great behind-the-scenes stories that these artists, black and white, shared on his couch. Amazing and underappreciated. I think like Troy said, the bad news was, is Arsenio funny? I don't know. The writing and the budget for writing, obviously they didn't have one, and some of the bits and stuff were whack. But at the end of the day, I think black people, especially, back to the apathy and not understanding how this thing works. If you don't support Arsenio Hall, guess what, black people? You will not have a show on television, because Arsenio Hall was the measure. Let's see, is there a viable market for it? Should be. Did they support? No. So even if you didn't like Arsenio Hall, people should have supported the show. But to me, it speaks to how we don't understand. We're very critical, and I was critical too when it first started. But then when I started seeing these guests, it hit me. if you have time to record a show and to spend some time with the show, you almost have to, because if you don't and you're black and you're in entertainment, guess what? You're not going to get a shot. So here's my prediction: ain't nobody getting a shot. That was it. Late night TV is changing. Who knows if it's still viable? But there will not be another African American show on television because they're saying it doesn't make money.
But okay, a couple of things here. One is, are African Americans, is the pressure still there to watch a program that may not be good simply because it's hosted by an African American?
It's always there.
Is that always going to be there? I mean, if something sucks, I'm not saying Arsenio sucked. I didn't watch it enough times this time around to really come up with a determination. One thing I did notice though, that it was the same show.
Yes.
So, but I mean, is it still there? I mean, people say, African Americans are always under the gun to say we got to support our shows, even if they're whack. You got to support. It's
about your audience. If you want an audience, here's what I'm saying.
But why do I have to have that kind of pressure to watch something that isn't good?
It's not pressure. There is no pressure. What I'm saying is, this is what we all know, and we've been in radio, so we know. All that BS that people say what they really want is not true.
True.
Everybody watches negative reality television shows. The ratings are through the roof, hands down, no argument. All those people that go to church and talking about, I want a positive show, I want this and that, they watch Tyler Perry, they watch reality shows. That's what works. All this other stuff, Oprah is not necessarily working. All the positive things, your man on TV One with the ascot, rating stuff.
Roland.
Yes. All the stuff that is positive and talking about something has low ratings because Americans basically just want to be entertained. So I guess if the people who say they want something, they have to support it if they want it on TV. If you don't want it on TV, then no, you don't have to. You just support what you like, which is reality TV.
Well, let me ask you this then, because I kind of agree that it'll be, at the very least, it'll be a while before another African American gets to host a late night show again.
That's not true.
Well, I mean, being what it is, though.
Well, actually, the guy that's going to replace who's replacing Letterman?
Oh, you're talking about Colbert.
Colbert. The guy that's replacing Colbert is
African American.
Yeah.
That's a lot, and a lot of people don't. Yeah, I remember reading that.
But that kind of show, right? That kind of show is not targeted for African Americans. That's I guess what I'm saying. It's not targeted for African Americans. You're going to see it's going to be a general show, which is
so. If you target African Americans, you got to have just African Americans on the show.
Yeah. No, they don't bring artists on the show. There are no R&B artists that are brought on these regular shows. The only R&B artists you see on television are those who've crossed over, who have huge success. Mm-hmm. So if you want a show that talks to a Dick Gregory, that talks to a Maya Angelou, that talks to people who are not necessarily mainstreamers, then you're not going to get it. Yeah, you can. The host, you're right. It's not about the black host. It's about the content of what you're bringing to the show.
Okay.
And so Arsenio, who can talk about a Magic Johnson, about really Magic Johnson, not the one that he presents on the general stage. That's what you get. So that's what I'm saying. You're just going to get shows, but they're not going to give you the depth or that. And maybe people didn't want that because they didn't support it.
Okay. All right.
People want the general stuff.
So I was reading that Donald Sterling a couple of days ago was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and so they took his privileges away. So they took his team away, and the family turned around and sold it to Steve Ballmer, who was a former CEO of Microsoft, for supposedly $2 billion in cash.
$2 billion
in cash.
This story right here, for so many different reasons, is just amazing. Mm-hmm. First of all, Donald Sterling has Alzheimer's. Well, but then last night, as in Friday night, he filed suit against the NBA.
But you know what, Detroit? But I saw something yesterday on the news last night also that said that part of the agreement was that the Sterling family, including Donald, was not going to fight anything. They were not going to hold the NBA. They were going to let the NBA, from their perspective, off the hook about everything. They're not going to sue the NBA. They're not going to hassle the NBA. This is over with. They're going to move on. They're going to take their $2 billion and they're going to move on. But I've also heard what you said. Right. So somewhere in there lies the truth.
And that's the thing that's so amazing. I mean, in one breath, they say the guy is mentally incapacitated, but 2 weeks ago he was on television. He didn't look like he had Alzheimer's to me.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I'm a physician, but I mean, the guy was able to have a conversation with Anderson Cooper, and although kind of weirdly, he was able to express himself.
But the weirdly may be the thing. I don't think Alzheimer's doesn't excuse what he said. I don't think. But I think, and I understand that, and I'm not feeling. I feel bad that he has Alzheimer's because I've known people with Alzheimer's. That's a horrible thing to go through. Yeah. But he needed to be out of the NBA.
Yes,
it was time to go.
But now here's the other part why I say this whole story is interesting. Steve Ballmer buys the team for $2 billion, as you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
It's the LA Clippers. Man, we're talking about the worst team in the NBA. The New York Knicks, I'm actually a fan of the Knicks, are worth $1.4 billion. The Lakers are worth just shy of $1 billion.
Right.
So,
but wasn't the LA Clipper thing? Wasn't that? I mean, Steve Ballmer. I mean, people submitted bids.
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
he overpaid.
He overpaid. But what does that do for the rest of the viable, real franchises with all steeped in NBA history?
Yeah.
That really did something.
Yeah.
When the worst team in the league is worth $2 billion.
Well, so I don't know that the Clippers are still the worst team, though. Are they still the worst? Yeah. They're not the worst team anymore.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, they're making a move now. I mean, they're obviously they may have played, but I mean, when you look at the storied history of the LA Clippers,
but by far,
it's huge. I mean, everybody knows Elgin Baylor.
Yeah, they sucked beyond all suckativity.
But a part of it was the leadership. I mean, now look at the Clippers now. The Clippers for the next 5 years will be more popular than the Lakers. They have They have not just one or two. They have 2 or 3 stars.
But let me. What happened to the Lakers, man? I mean,
they got old.
They got old. They got old in the blink of an eye. They got old like that. What happened?
Well, Buss died, right?
Yeah, Jerry Buss out of the picture. You don't
now I know he owned the team and he signed the checks, but
I believe now. I've already cracked on the Clippers. So the good news, like Mark said, is that you have a guy who's willing to put up. He didn't have to spend $2 billion. He just wanted the team.
Yeah.
So he drove the price up. The next closest bid was what 1.5, 1.6.
Was that the one? Because I know Steve Jobs' wife made a bid too.
Yeah. So
can you imagine that they had little Apple logos on? Now they're gonna have the Microsoft logo.
Right, it's battle. I think the Lakers are over for the next decade, and I think the Clippers.
You think it's going to be 10 years before the Lakers get back in contention to be competitive?
I don't know about that now.
Why would we assume? See, I think that's the other thing. Like our generation, we feel like the pendulum swings back. It don't swing back. It don't swing back and moves forward. I think. Why would the Lakers? What magical mystery trick do we think the Lakers will have? The only reason we feel that way is because the Lakers have always been good, but nothing says the Lakers are going to be back for a long time.
So money does.
But I mean, they could take
money doesn't make the team. It's the management that makes the team.
Well, yes, so they need.
Look at the infrastructure. What coach do they have? Who's their general manager?
Mm-hmm.
Mitch Kupchak.
Mitch Kupchak.
Yeah.
but he was. But how many years was he successful though?
Yeah,
the last 2 years have been disastrous for him.
Yeah,
but before that,
you got 2 words though. Kobe Bryant, man. Kobe, he's gone. He's done. So now.
So Kobe's not gonna. Kobe won't play anymore. Is he done?
He's not as far as being an elite player on the level of Kobe Bryant. He's now a old Kobe Bryant. Mm-hmm. He's got 2 years left at most.
That's a shame. You're 35 and you're old. You're old. That's the sports world, though, right?
Yeah.
Hey, they don't have any young dynamic player to build around.
Speaking of young dynamic players, what a segue! I read this article that says that Michael Jordan is like the biggest asshole in going around these, and that he's always actually been that way, but he got a pass because of the marketing machine that was around him. But what a lot of people don't know, well, he's that he is like a really big, and it's like I never knew that. I mean, I always thought he got a pass on a lot of things, like the gambling thing. He got a pass on, but I understood, and I guess I just never really thought about it or wanted to believe it, but because he never really got involved in like social issues, he stayed away, huh?
He never got involved in anything.
He never except other women. And,
I mean,
and he got a pass with that too.
It's amazing that he even made a comment on Donald Sterling. I mean, if you're a real sports fan and you saw that Michael Jordan issued a statement, people were shocked.
Yeah,
he never stood up. He never ever said anything about it. Even in interviews, he was asked by reporters, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about kids getting shot over $150 tennis shoes with your name on it? And I mean, he didn't really. I mean, obviously, he didn't say, "Hey, I'm really happy about that."
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying. He never took a.
He sidestepped it.
He basically said that I don't want to say he said what Charles Barkley said about I'm not a role model.
Yeah.
I think he understood that, but it seems like I remember him saying that I'm a basketball player. I'm not running for president. Something along those lines.
Well, I'm gonna quote Tennessee Ernie Ford.
Going deep in the crates.
He sold his soul to the company store. Nike. But I mean, Nike, baby.
The article that I read, and I don't know where, I couldn't find it again if I had to, I'm sure, but the one I read was like, it almost implied that he was about as big a a-hole as Barry Bonds was when Barry played ball.
Yeah.
Now that's a Hall of Fame a-hole, no pun intended, but
yeah.
I mean, because Barry was very difficult in his playing. I think he's kind of been humbled since he's not playing anymore and everything that's happened to him.
Now that his head swelling went down.
But when he
from the steroids.
But when he was playing ball, and the most amazing thing about Barry Bonds is that he was a Hall of Famer before that.
Yeah.
So if anybody ever got caught up in competition or trying to get some shine behind, because he was trying to outshine Mark McGwire, who actually admitted, what he did. But that whole thing has been amazing, though. But I did not know that about Michael Jordan, that he is like one of the biggest a-holes that
Tony, you just weren't paying attention, man.
Well, maybe I wasn't. I mean, and I'll admit to that. Maybe I wasn't. But, I mean, I saw things, but I just, it was like, but he got a pass on a lot of things. You have to admit that.
He was the greatest player in the NBA. I think his acceptance speech into the Hall of Fame kind of gave us some insight on it. And I think at the end of the day, I always, how it is, guys. We hear the activists and, the activists say the same thing, and so the whole thing about he needs to be more accountable for the community, and you go, I think we all understand. We understand both sides of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. I think when you look at Michael now in the big picture, now that the years have passed, and you see what happened, what really happened was Michael Jordan, definitely, who's the only owner of his own shoe that generates over $100 million annually, made the decision, probably by his consultants, to say, stay out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Just sign right here and stay out of that. Because you are Jordan, Air Jordans.
And Mark, there are people watching this right now who may or may not comment, but they are thinking that we are way out of line. Because because we're supposed to support black talk shows or black movies. We're supposed to support our black celebrities and athletes no matter what.
No, Tony. See that's what I'm saying. That's the grassrooters.
Uh-huh.
The grassrooters have agreed to bring down Michael Jordan, so we're safe. They designate you as people you can bring down. You can bring down Michael Jordan,
right?
Leave Tavis alone.
Leave Tavis alone.
You can definitely bring down any black Republican. There's a list. So you didn't get the list.
I didn't get the updated list, man. I missed that. So is 50 Cent on the list?
After that pitch,
because I saw a graph that said they charted some of the worst pitches ever, and they said, and according to this graph, by far the worst celebrity thrown out the first pitch ever in the history of doing this, by far, according to this graph, because he was like so out there. I mean, he was halfway up the first base line with that throw. And
we're saying he did it for a setup, for promoting his album.
It wasn't his fault.
It wasn't his fault.
No. Lance Stevenson blew on the ball.
What the hell was that? What was that about? And Larry Bird, like, it says we're talking about Lance Stevenson. Larry Bird, who's president of the Pacers, supposedly had a conversation about Lance about doing stuff like that. And said,
he did it anyway.
Yeah.
In the game that in Miami advanced.
Yeah.
Did you guys see? He went up to LeBron and was like, touched him on the chin.
Yeah. What is that about though? But it's interesting about 50 Cent because he like said that I'm a thug. I'm not a ball player.
You're right about that.
That's the one you go. Well, he's not a thug either though.
He thugged it out with that ball.
But that was sad. But I don't know if you guys knew this, but I remember reading this that back in that movie Any Given Sunday, the one with Jamie Foxx, that Puffy originally was going to have that role, but he couldn't throw. He threw football like a girl.
Well, you know what? For 50 on behalf of 50 Cent and beyond on behalf of Puffy, it's because if you're a G, if you're a gangster, if you're a thug, it's because of years of shooting a gun sideways.
Was that what that is? Because it kind of
that's why you can't throw a ball straight.
Is that the one they're going with?
Rotator cuff.
The rotator cuff. Well. See, if I was 50, I'd have gone with the bullet wounds and stuff like that. But if he's going to go with that one, okay. All right. So what have you guys noticed in the news?
I have. I ran across this interesting article. The movie about the movie about Nina Simone is coming out, right? And they screened it at Cannes, but they didn't screen it to the public. They screened it for the distributors.
Okay.
And the big controversy is, Zoe Saldana, who dons, blackface and prosthetic nose to play Nina Simone.
Mm-hmm.
And I read this. It was a great blog about it by you can check it out at globalgrind.com. T. Better Baldwin. And that basically she's saying that, this is a travesty and that, the fact that she had to don a prosthetic nose and darken her skin when you have actresses who, of her caliber, who are available, who are
made that way,
are available. And she was saying the reason this nose, this Nina Simone nose is the nose and the thick lips. This is a part of really who Nina Simone really was. And so that's why it's so important because she was saying that her mother looked like her. And when people said she was beautiful and said her mother was beautiful and Nina Simone is beautiful, it made her as a little girl feel that she too was beautiful. And that's the struggle that most African Americans or Africans have, is that they do not feel beautiful. And this movie, just by casting Zoe Saldana, almost does the same thing and disrespects that yet again. And she felt like Zoe should have passed on the role, and maybe whatever. So the article, it's interesting because I understand again fully what she's talking about, and I feel her. But there is something about this that I'm like, back to how things really work. That's not really how it works. If somebody says, Tony Scott, I want you to play, who's that guy they say look like Tony? Andre, somebody in the music industry. You happen to be Hispanic and you just happen to look just like him, and you're an actor. You're not going to say, well, I appreciate the offer, but no, I won't do it because there's a well-deserved African American who could play the role, and I'm not. It's just that's not how it works.
And the thing is, the person who wrote the blog, I'm quite sure, understands how the game works. So to me, it's like they're probably trying to get a response out of people, and the response will be misdirected because it will be aimed at Zoe.
Yes,
and Zoe took the role, and she should have taken a role that was offered to her because it could be a career changer for her. It could be her breakout role. If you're going to be mad at somebody, you should be mad at whoever decided to offer her the gig. But then again, that's their interpretation, and they saw something in Zoe who they felt could pull it off. So that's just misguided. That's like shooting a gun in a crowd full of people and it's going to hit somebody. What the hell? It's like, I mean, you're shooting in the dark here. I mean, because it doesn't make any sense to say something like that. That's just wrong.
It's a movie.
It's a movie.
It's a freaking movie.
Yeah.
I mean, Sidney Poitier played Thurgood Marshall.
Mm.
He did.
Man.
He did.
He did.
He is the greatest actor of a generation. Were we less entertained by the film? Because
yes. Yes, we were. Just like Andrew Brower's family. I mean, Benjamin O'Davis' family has a hit on Andrew Brower for playing Benjamin O'Davis. They were like, if you ever see him, tell Big Mama, because we're going to take him out. Along with Terrence Howard playing Nelson Mandela.
No.
What?
But, yeah, so you can't be mad at the actor, the actress,
right,
for accepting a role. That is so and to criticize them as saying they should have passed on the role is beyond naive, and it's just you're looking to incite something, in my opinion.
Idris Elba as Nelson Mandela, also check mark.
Well muscled. I saw the movie and it felt like Nelson Mandela as Idris Elba could have just wrestled apartheid to its knees. Show me apartheid. I will destroy it myself.
That's right.
I will grab apartheid by the neck, break it, and throw it away.
A cage match in Johannesburg.
Man. So
Mandela's walking in.
He's awfully spry.
Man, come on, man. So where are we with Bring Our Girls Home, man? Are we we know where they are? Is it official? That we know where they are?
Well, official.
Well, official for who? Official
I mean, is it official? Do we know where these girls are?
Does the word official translate to Nigerian?
Does the Nigerian army know where the girls are?
They're saying they do.
Okay. Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. I just wanted to be clear on that. So,
all
right.
No, they know. I think we know the same thing that we knew weeks ago.
Right.
That they're in a specific area, and
that's really all we know.
That's really all. I mean, they said that they don't want to go in because they feel like this group Boko Haram will
slaughter the girls, right?
Slaughter the girls.
Yeah.
Now, earlier this week, and there really hasn't been any new news. At least I haven't seen any. But earlier in the week, there was a story that 4 girls escaped again.
I did see that. Yeah.
But they didn't say they escaped this week. They just said
they escaped.
I mean, there's the storyline along this developing story is interesting because the information doesn't necessarily match up with the way news happens. If 4 girls escape right now, it would be breaking news, and but this was kind of like 4 girls escaped.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
when?
Yeah.
I don't know. We don't know when, but they escaped.
Yeah.
So, the way the Nigerian government has been, they didn't want help from the outside world. The air marshal at one point, I had a quote when I was doing a newscast earlier in the week where he's like, basically, if you leave us alone, we can go and do what we need to do. Ain't nobody leaving you alone. The whole world is looking in on this.
Yeah, we're on that. Yeah,
there's something wrong because they were going to make a deal with Boko Haram.
Right.
You release 100 terrorists. 100 terrorists.
100. Yeah.
And we will release the girls, or release some of the girls. I mean, and they were going to be down with that.
Yeah.
But then, you had conflicting points of view.
Sure.
President said, "Good luck, Jonathan," and he really did. Hey, is there ever a truer phrase? Good luck, Jonathan, on this one.
Yeah. Yeah.
He said that no, we're not going to make a deal with him. But at one point that was in the news. The government was going to negotiate. So I don't know. I really feel for these families that
going through that. Yeah.
Are going through that, and they're not getting the information that they need.
Sure.
It's just a sad story. I hope it works out, but it's a shame.
What else you got?
Did you guys see the Google car?
Yeah.
Yeah, the driverless car.
A driverless car. Now, I've been knocked about this because when I've had talk shows and just in general discussions about issues that maybe they don't necessarily fit in the African American box, but I think they're just as important, for us to discuss. Because if we're going to be on this planet in the 21st century, we should probably get with the times. Mm-hmm. And instead of going out and buying a new Cadillac, a gas guzzling vehicle, maybe we also should find and use some of these resources that I'm not saying that black folks don't, but I'm just saying that I don't think there's a broad conversation about some of these things. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so I've always been interested in these hybrid vehicles and things that would we can integrate in our lives easily without having to be sandal wearing Greenpeace kind of person. Mm-hmm. So the Google car is interesting to me. It drives itself. You just sit in the car. That's perfect for black people. That's perfect for us. Mom, you can beat your kids now. Out in the back seat.
Told you.
You can text all day long. You can do everything you want to do, and the car just takes you to the location that you wanted to go to. I think that's cool.
When you bring it to Uncle Teddy, you're gonna say, "Hey man, this is nice, man. Do they have it a Broham version?"
Because we're gonna have to hook it up. You probably can get the technology, and then put it in an old Cutlass.
Mm-hmm.
Man.
You can basically have a living room in a car. Just you don't need no driving.
Flat screen TVs in the car. It's coming.
Man. Oh well, there you go. So, all right, that's our Men on Scandal because we're at about 40 minutes. Man, it flies by. Yeah. Hopefully you enjoyed this. If you leave comments and things like that down below, and we'll see you next week with another episode. So I'm Tony Scott. That's Troy Johnson. That's Mark Clark. And again, we will see you next time.